The wind howled like a grieving widow, tearing at the harbor's rickety docks as if to drag them into the sea's cold embrace. Elias, the old fisherman, stood alone at the edge, his weathered hands clutching a small, tarnished box, its surface etched with runes that seemed to pulse faintly under the storm's flickering light. He was 72, but the weight of his years felt heavier tonight, as if the ocean itself pressed down on his soul. Elias had buried too many friends in this harbor town, each loss carving a deeper scar into his heart. The sea gave life, but it took more wives, sons, dreams. Tonight, though, was different. Tonight, he wasn't here to mourn. He was here to honor a promise, one made decades ago to his oldest friend, Jonah, who had vanished into the waves one starless night. The box in Elias's hands was all that remained of him, a relic of a life cut short, and it held something Elias had sworn to protect until the right moment came. That moment arrived in the form of a boy, no older than 12, shivering in the shadows of the harbor's abandoned fish market. Finn, the orphan, had no family, no home, only the rags on his back and a stubborn spark in his eyes that refused to dim despite the world's cruelty. Elias had seen him before, scavenging for scraps, dodging the kicks of dockhands who saw him as less than the gulls circling above. Something about the boy's defiance reminded Elias of Jonah Fearless, even when the odds were stacked against him. "Boy," Elias called, his voice rough as the gravel underfoot. Finn froze, his small frame tensing as if ready to bolt. But Elias raised a hand, not in threat, but in offering. "Come here. I've got something for you." Finn hesitated, his gaze darting between Elias and the box. Hunger and curiosity warred in his eyes, but curiosity won. He stepped forward, cautious as a stray cat. "What is it, old man?" he asked, his voice sharp but trembling with the cold. Elias knelt, his knees creaking, and opened the box. Inside lay a compass, its glass cracked, but its needle steady, glowing faintly with an unnatural green light. Finn's breath caught. "This," Elias said, "belonged to my friend Jonah. He said it'd find what matters most, no matter how lost it seems. And I think, boy, it's meant for you." Finn stared, his fingers twitching but not daring to touch. "Why me?" he whispered. "I ain't nobody." Elias's eyes softened, the lines of his face deepening with a sadness he couldn't voice. "Because you're still here, Finn. That's more than most can say." He pressed the compass into the boy's hands, its warmth startling against the chill of the night. "Keep it close. It'll show you the way, but only if you're brave enough to follow." The storm roared louder, as if protesting the exchange. Finn clutched the compass, its glow casting shadows across his face, and for the first time, Elias saw something like hope flicker in the boy's eyes. But hope was a dangerous thing in a place like this, where the sea swallowed dreams as easily as ships. Over the next few days, Finn kept the compass hidden under his tattered shirt, its weight both a comfort and a mystery. He didn't understand why Elias had chosen him, but the old man's words echoed in his mind. "It'll show you the way." The harbor town was a brutal place for an orphan. Thieves lurked in alleys, and hunger was a constant companion. Yet the compass seemed to hum softly against his chest, as if whispering secrets he wasn't ready to hear. One evening, as Finn hid in a crate to avoid a gang of older boys, the compass began to vibrate. He pulled it out, startled to see the needle spinning wildly, not pointing north but toward the harbor's edge, where the oldest pier stretched into the fog. Finn's heart pounded. He'd heard stories about that pier, whispers of ghosts, of ships that sailed into the mist and never returned. But the compass's glow was insistent, tugging at something deep inside him. He crept out of the crate, the fog swallowing his footsteps. At the pier's end, he found Elias, his silhouette barely visible against the churning sea. "You followed it," Elias said without turning, his voice heavy with something Finn couldn't name. "Good. That means you're ready." "Ready for what?" Finn asked, gripping the compass tighter. Elias turned, his eyes glinting like the sea under moonlight. "To find what Jonah left behind. It's not just a compass, boy. It's a key." Finn's pulse quickened. "A key to what?" Before Elias could answer, a figure emerged from the Fogo woman, tall and gaunt, her face half hidden by a hood. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the wind. "Elias, you old fool. You can't give that to a child. It's too dangerous." Finn stepped back, the compass burning hot in his hand. Elias stood firm, his jaw set. He's the one, Mara. Jonah would have wanted it this way. Mara's eyes narrowed, flicking to Finn. You don't know what you're starting, boy. That compass doesn't just find things, it calls them. Finn's stomach twisted. The compass's glow pulsed brighter, and the sea beyond the pier began to churn, as if something vast and ancient stirred beneath the waves. He wanted to run, but his feet felt rooted to the dock. Elias placed a hand on his shoulder, steady as an anchor. Don't be afraid, he said. Jonah wasn't. And neither are you. The sea roared like a beast awakened, its waves clawing at the pier where Finn stood, the compass burning against his palm. Mara's words hung in the air, it calls them, and the weight of her warning made Finn's chest tighten. He glanced at Elias, searching for reassurance, but the old fisherman's face was unreadable, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the fog seemed to writhe like a living thing. Who's she? Finn whispered, his voice nearly lost in the wind. Mara, Elias said, his tone clipped. She sailed with Jonah and me years ago. Knows more about that compass than anyone alive. But she's wrong about you, boy. You're not just some stray. Mara stepped closer, her hood slipping back to reveal a face carved by time and sorrow, her eyes sharp as a gull's. You're meddling with forces you can't control, Elias. That compass isn't a gift, it's a curse. You think Jonah wanted it passed on. He died trying to keep it hidden. Finn's grip on the compass faltered, its glow flickering as if in response. What does it do? He asked, his voice trembling but defiant. You keep talking around it, but what is it? Mara's lips thinned, but Elias spoke first. It finds what's lost, Finn. Not just things, people, places, truths. But it demands something in return. Always does. He paused, his gaze softening. Jonah learned that the hard way. The pier creaked beneath them, and the sea's churning grew louder, a low growl that vibrated through Finn's bones. He wanted to ask more, but the compass surged again, its needle locking onto a point far out in the water, where the fog parted to reveal a faint, ghostly light. Finn's breath caught. It wasn't a lighthouse or a sure pit, was something else, something that felt alive. We need to go, Elias said, his voice urgent. Now. Go where? Finn asked, panic rising. Out there? In that. Elias nodded, already moving toward a small, weathered boat tied to the pier. The compass is calling you, boy. You can ignore it, but it won't stop. Not until it gets what it wants. Mara grabbed Elias's arm, her fingers like claws. You're sending him to his death, just like Jonah. You think this child can handle what's out there? Elias shook her off, his face hard. He's stronger than you think, Mara. Stronger than any of us were. Finn's heart raced as he followed Elias to the boat, the compass's glow now a steady pulse that matched his heartbeat. Mara's warnings echoed in his mind, but so did Elias's faith in him. For the first time in his life, someone believed he was more than a nobody. He climbed into the boat, his hands shaking but his resolve firm. The sea was merciless, tossing the boat like a toy as Elias rode into the fog. Finn clung to the compass, its warmth the only comfort in the cold, wet dark. The ghostly light grew closer, revealing the outline of a ship wreck, half submerged, its mast broken like the bones of some ancient beast. Finn's stomach lurched. That's where we're going? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Elias nodded, his face grim. Jonah's ship. The eternal hope. It's where he left something for you. The boat bumped against the wreck, and Elias tied it to a jagged piece of hull. Finn's legs wobbled as he climbed aboard, the compass now blazing so brightly it lit the deck in eerie green. The ship groaned under their weight, as if protesting their presence. Finn's eyes darted to every shadow, expecting Mara or something worse to emerge. Instead, they found a hatch, rusted but intact. Elias pried it open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Stay close, he said, handing Finn a lantern. The compass's needle pointed downward, unwavering. The air below was thick with the smell of salt and decay. Finn's lantern cast flickering shadows on walls covered in strange, spiraling symbols that matched the runes on the compass's box. At the bottom of the stairs, they found a small cabin, its contents untouched by a table, a chair, and a locked chest. The compass's glow intensified, its needle pointing directly at the chest. Elias knelt, his hands trembling as he pulled a key from his coat. This was Jonah's, he said, his voice breaking. He made me swear to keep it safe until the right person came along. That's you, Finn. Before Finn could respond, a new voice cut through the silencia boy's voice, soft and eerily familiar. You shouldn't be here. Finn spun, his lantern illuminating a figure in the Cornera boy's age, pale and translucent, his eyes glowing the same green as the compass. Finn's heart stopped. Who are you? The boy smiled, sad and knowing. I'm Caleb, Jonah's son. And that compass? It's why I'm still here. Finn's lantern trembled in his hand, casting jagged shadows that danced across Caleb's ghostly form. The boy's words, "It's why I'm still here," hung in the air like a curse, and the compass in Finn's hand burned hotter, its glow pulsing in time with Caleb's eerie green eyes. Elias stood frozen, his face pale as the sea foam, staring at the specter of his friend's son. You're dead? Finn stammered, his voice barely audible over the ship's groans. How are you here? Caleb's smile was bittersweet, his translucent figure flickering like a candle in the wind. The compass binds me. It binds anyone who uses it. My father didn't know until it was too late. He drifted closer, his gaze locked on the compass. You shouldn't have taken it, Finn. It's not just a key, it's a chain. Elias's breath hitched, his hands clenching into fists. Caleb, he whispered, his voice raw with guilt. I didn't know. Jonah never told me about you. Caleb's eyes softened, but his voice held an edge. He didn't want you to know. He thought he could protect me by keeping the compass's secret. But it called me, just like it's calling you now. Finn's stomach churned. He looked down at the compass, its needle still pointing at the chest, its glow now almost blinding. What's in there? He asked, his voice shaking but resolute. What did Jonah leave? Caleb's form flickered again, his voice dropping to a whisper. Hope. And a warning. Open it, and you'll see. Elias hesitated, his hand hovering over the key. Finn, we can turn back. You don't have to do this. But Finn's jaw tightened. He'd spent his whole life running from hunger, from cruelty, from the emptiness of being nobody. The compass had chosen him, and for the first time, he felt like he had a purpose. Open it, he said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his chest. Elias nodded, his eyes heavy with unspoken grief, and turned the key. The chest creaked open, revealing a small, leather-bound journal and a vial of shimmering liquid that glowed the same green as the compass. Finn reached for the journal, but Caleb's voice stopped him. Read it carefully, Finn. Every word matters. Finn opened the journal, its pages brittle but legible. Jonah's handwriting filled the pages, each entry a mix of hope and desperation. The compass, he wrote, was no ordinary tool. It was forged by something older than the sea, something that granted wishes but demanded sacrifices. Jonah had used it to find the eternal hope, a ship rumored to hold a treasure that could end poverty in the harbor town. But the compass had led him to ruin, trapping his soul and Caleb's in its power. Finn's hands shook as he read the final entry. If you're reading this, the compass has chosen you. It will show you what you seek, but it will take what you love. Break the cycle, or it will break you. Elias's voice broke the silence. Jonah, he tried to warn me. I thought he was just lost at sea. His eyes glistened, and Finn realized the old man was crying not for himself, but for the friend he'd failed. Caleb drifted closer, his voice urgent. You can still walk away, Finn. Give the compass back to the sea. Let it take me instead. Finn's heart pounded. He looked at the vial, its glow hypnotic, and then at Caleb, whose eyes pleaded for release. But the journal's words burned in his mind. Break the cycle. He didn't know how, but he knew he couldn't abandon Caleb or Elias, who had trusted him with this burden. I'm not giving up, Finn said, his voice fierce. There's a way to fix this. There has to be. Elias nodded, a spark of pride in his eyes. Then we keep going. Together. They climbed back to the deck, the storm now a howling fury. The compass's needle spun wildly, pointing not back to shore but deeper into the sea, where the fog was thickest. Finn clutched the journal and vial, his resolve hardening. But as they prepared to row back, a shadow loomed through the massive ship, its sails tattered but glowing with the same eerie green as the compass. Mara stood at its helm, her face grim but resolute. You didn't listen, she called, her voice carrying over the wind. Now it's awake. Finn's blood ran cold. The compass burned in his hand, and the sea began to boil, waves rising like mountains. Caleb's ghostly form flickered beside him, his voice a whisper. She's not your enemy, Finn. She's trying to save you. The sea roared like a living beast, its waves crashing against the eternal hope as Mara's ship loomed closer, its green glowing sails casting an unearthly light. Finn clung to the compass, its heat searing his skin, while Elias gripped the oars, his face set in grim determination. Caleb's ghostly form hovered beside them, his eyes fixed on Mara, a mix of sorrow and hope in his translucent gaze. Why is she doing this? Finn shouted over the storm, the journal and vial tucked safely inside his shirt. The compass's needle spun frantically, pointing not at Mara's ship but beyond it, into the heart of the fog. She thinks she's protecting you, Caleb said, his voice faint but clear. She tried to protect me, too. But the compass doesn't let go. Elias rowed harder, his breath ragged. Mara was Jonah's sister, he said, his words punctuated by the crash of waves. She blames herself for his death. Blames me, too. She's been chasing the compass ever since, trying to destroy it. Finn's mind reeled. Mara, Jonah's sister, had been the shadow in the fog, the warning voice on the pier. Her anger made sense now, but her presence on this ghostly ship didn't. What's she want with me? He asked, his voice trembling. Caleb's eyes darkened. She wants to end it. All of it. But she doesn't know how. Mara's ship drew alongside, its hull creaking with an unnatural groan. She leaned over the railing, her face pale but fierce. Give me the compass, boy, she shouted. You don't know what you're holding. It'll destroy you, just like it destroyed my brother. Finn's hand tightened around the compass. Its glow pulsed in time with his heartbeat, and for a moment, he saw a Visiona harbor town free of poverty, children laughing instead of starving, Elias smiling without the weight of grief. It was what Jonah had sought, what the compass promised. But the journal's warning echoed in his mind. It will take what you love. I'm not giving it up. Finn yelled back, his voice stronger than he felt. There's a way to use it right. I'll find it. Mara's face twisted with anguish. You're a fool, just like Jonah. She raised a hand, and the sea responded, a massive wave surging toward their boat. Elias cursed, pulling at the oars, but the wave was too fast. Finn braced for impact, but Caleb's ghostly form flared bright, and the wave parted around them, leaving the boat untouched. Finn stared at Caleb, stunned. How did you? I'm tied to the compass, Caleb said, his voice strained. I can't leave it, but I can help you. For now. Elias guided the boat into the fog, following the compass's needle to a point where the sea grew still, the storm's roar fading to an eerie silence. In the distance, a small island emerged, its cliffs jagged and glowing faintly green. Finn's heart pounded. The compass was leading them to the source of its power, and he knew, somehow, that this was where the cycle could be broken or where it would claim him. They reached the island, its shore littered with the bones of ancient ships. Finn clutched the journal, its pages heavy with Jonah's warnings. The vial in his pocket glowed brighter, its light matching the cliffs above. Elias helped him ashore, his face etched with fear but also faith. You're doing what Jonah couldn't, he said. I believe in you, Finn. At the island's heart, they found a cave, its walls pulsing with the same runes as the compass's box. The compass's needle pointed to a stone altar, where a faint green light emanated from a crack in the rock. Finn approached, his hands shaking as he opened the journal to Jonah's final entry. The compass's power comes from the heart of the sea. To break its hold, you must offer what it seeks and mean it. Finn's eyes fell on the vial. He uncorked it, its glow now blinding, and poured its contents onto the altar. The cave shook, the runes flaring bright. Caleb's form appeared beside him, his voice urgent. You have to choose, Finn. The compass will give you what you want, but it'll take someone you love. Or you can destroy it and free us all. Finn's throat tightened. He thought of Elias, the only person who'd ever believed in him. He thought of Caleb, trapped for years by the compass's curse. And he thought of the harbor town, its people suffering under the weight of poverty. The compass could save them, but at what cost? I choose you, Finn said, his voice breaking. He smashed the compass against the altar, its glass shattering, its glow erupting in a blinding wave. The cave roared, the sea outside screaming as the runes faded. Caleb's form glowed brighter, then softened, his smile one of peace. Thank you, he whispered, before vanishing. When the light faded, Finn and Elias stood alone, the compass nothing but shards at their feet. The storm was gone, the sea calm. Finn felt lighter, but his heart ached. He'd lost the chance to save the town, but he'd freed Caliban himself. Mara's ship appeared at the shore, her face no longer angry but weary. "You did it," she said, her voice soft. "You broke the cycle." Elias placed a hand on Finn's shoulder. "You're not an orphan anymore, boy. You've got a home with me." Finn nodded, tears stinging his eyes. The harbor town waited, still broken, still struggling. But for the first time, Finn felt like he could face it not as a nobody, but as someone who'd chosen hope over power.